Meantime, tensions rising between Beijing and Washington over regional territorial disputes in the South China Sea. Saturday, China's foreign ministry summoned the U.S. Deputy Chief of Mission in Beijing, Robert Wang, to give more details about a U.S. statement issued Friday saying that China's recent moves in the South China Sea could inflame tensions with neighbors. Washington confirms Mr. Wang met with Chinese officials but declined to say what was talked about. All right, let's get to Sean King, Senior VP, Park Strategies. He joins us live out of Hong Kong. Sean, good to see you again. What do you make of this latest diplomatic headbutting over the South China Sea?
Good morning, Martin. I'm not surprised by it, and I'm glad to see the United States standing by its friends and allies in the region against Beijing's bullying. So they can scream and yell all they want, but I think what we're doing, what we should do.
Sean, at what point in this dispute does it become serious escalation? How close are we to this, or is it just going to remain within the realm of brinkmanship? Because we're talking at the end of the day about strategic assets here in the South China Sea. Energy, China needs them for its resources, security and for growth. How close are we going to get towards a real shooting match here?
I don't think we will, and I wouldn't even label it brinksmanship yet. You know, North Korea's brinksmanship when they test a nuclear device and then demand more food aid to go back to where they were before. I wouldn't even say we're at that point. I think we're a lot of jousting and really more posturing than anything else. And yes, the energy deposits are important, but I think it's also a nationalistic pursuit by the government in China to show its people, in absence of communist ideology anymore, that it is the vanguard and defender of Chinese national interests. So beyond the actual strategic and energy assets, I also think it's just the Beijing government trying to show its people that it has China's interests at heart, to the detriment of its neighbors. But I think we're a far way away from anything actually happening.
It's very tricky, isn't it, Sean, in terms of dividing up or coming to some sort of definitive agreement on maritime boundaries here. Is there scope, therefore, for any kind of compromise?
I think so eventually. You know, it's not my place to say, but, you know, for all those elite think tank people in Manhattan's Upper East Side who used to chastise George Bush for acting bilaterally, it's China in this case that wants to act bilaterally with each of these little almost defenseless countries and pick them off one by one. They're the ones, along with the United States, who wants to negotiate this from a collective point of view, and China doesn't like that because it wants to take advantage of its size advantage. And Secretary Clinton, when she was in Cambodia for the ASEAN summit, she wanted to, you know, push the code of conduct for the sea, and China wasn't interested in that. So there is a solution. I don't know what it is, but it's going to have to be with the collective buy-in of all regional players. And this is not a fight that the United States was looking for. This is a question of all these countries who feel bullied by China running to America asking for help against their big neighbor.
You know, Sean, you mentioned Secretary Clinton. I mean, I think, if I'm not mistaken, she's probably logged more miles and more time overseas in foreign countries than any other Secretary of State in recent memory, at the very least, which says a lot about Obama's foreign policy. But now, with the prospect of Mitt Romney becoming the next president, and it's still an if again, if that indeed does happen come November, what do you think this says to friends out here in Asia? I mean, this is a gentleman who, on his latest road trip, has managed to anger the British over the Olympics and over security, and these are the guys that we have a special relationship with and have had for I don't know how many years. And then in the Middle East, cheeses off the Palestinians by suggesting that the differences in their standard of living with the Israelis has to do with culture more than anything else. I mean, this isn't a good start.
Well, I can tell you one thing if Mitt Romney wins, and that is that Hillary Clinton won't be Secretary of State. I'm a Republican. You can take that to the bank. I'm a Republican. I voted for John McCain, but I can't say how happy I am with President Obama's Asia policy. He's really governed to the right almost when it comes to Asia, and I'm very pleased. I would only hope that Mitt Romney continues Obama's great policies of standing by countries like Vietnam, Philippines, pushing through free trade agreements like we have with South Korea, standing up to North Korea. And you say that Mitt Romney upset the Brits. Well, I mean, that wasn't really a serious issue, and he may have upset the Palestinians, but he made Israel very happy, and he obviously made Poland very happy and got the endorsement of Lech Walesa. So In terms of Mitt Romney's Europe trip and Middle East trip, it depends on whose side you're on. But there are a lot of people saying he pleased the right people on that trip, certainly as far as the U.S. electorate is concerned.
Okay, all right. And back to this pivot towards Asia, which is beginning under Obama. I got to ask, I mean, just before we came to you, we were talking about troubles in the South China Sea, etc. I mean, in terms of naval power and supremacy and control, etc., this pivot towards Asia right now, I mean, from what we know, it's basically a couple hundred Marines. Maybe they might scale that up to a couple of thousand in Darwin. How much is this really going to help the U.S. when we're talking about a country like China building out a blue water navy?
Right. You know, first things first. You do what you can do. But it's not just the Marines in Darwin. It's Leon Panetta going to Vietnam. It's the naval destroyers calling it Vietnamese port, which once would have been unthinkable. It's the RIMPAC exercises in Hawaii with our friends in the Philippines. It's passing the U.S.-Korea free trade agreement and standing firm against North Korea's provocative moves. It's a lot of things, not just a few troops. It's a symbolic shift and commitment to the region. And it's not just in our interest, it's in the regional interest. And if it gives them air and breathing space against China, then it's a success. And it's only the start. It's only been a few months. I expect this to continue and expand over the next few years. And if Romney's president, I hope he continues. If not, we know Obama will.
All right. Listen, Sean, good to talk to you. As always, very useful. Sean King, Park Strategies, joining us live from our studios up in Hong Kong.